Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast. I am your host, Tiffany Cohen, and today we are talking about something that is really one of my favorite things to talk about, to understand, and to help people really start letting go and releasing and understanding themselves. And that is how trauma and limiting beliefs, fears, doubts, how all of that energy is stored within our physical body, our ultimately all of our different layers, our energetic body, as well as within our subconscious mind. So let's get into it. This is a big part of spinal energetics as well. And I am a spinal energetics practitioner. As far as I know, I'm the only spinal energetics practitioner on Long Island. And I recently just returned from LA from spinal energetics too, and learning that profound level of healing. And we'll get into that in a little bit, and how it differs from spinal one, and really ultimately what we're looking to do. I feel like every step of the way, especially this year in particular, I have done so much of my own healing work and also learning so much about a deeper level of healing and a deeper level and a deeper understanding of the way that we hold things within our bodies and within our fields, and how we can really begin to let them go. Like, what are some effective ways to let go? So let's first talk and start with exactly how these things get stored, right? So I want you to think of every memory, everything that you've ever experienced, that you've ever witnessed, seen, even like seen on TV, that those things that really stuck with you, or the things that, maybe hurt you or shaped you. They could be good things as well. It doesn't just have to be bad things, but anything that has really shaped you in some way, whether consciously or unconsciously. I want you to think of them as like they each have their own energy. Okay. And that energy forms in different places, whether in your physical body or in the multiple layers that you have in your energetic field. So just starting with the energetic field itself, your most dense layer of your energetic field is your physical body. Okay. And then from here, what I'm going to say is take what resonates, leave what doesn't. There are so many different healing modalities and different ways of understanding what the different layers are. They're all similar, but they might have a different order to them or whatever it is. But basically, the most dense layer is your physical body. That's the physicality that you see, with your physical eyes, right? You can touch it, you can see it, and then we've got many different layers that really flow up from there. So we have our emotional layer, we have our mental layer, we have our spiritual layer. So really, like, how we connect with the world around us. And then we have our soul layer. We have an ancestral layer. So there's many different layers within our body. And again, with this, I want you to take what resonates. If you are an energy healer and you have different layers in your vocabulary, they're all amounting to the same thing, that is all within our energetic field. But this is what I believe. This is what, we really talk about in spinal energetics. And that energy pattern forms, and I want you to think of it as like a knot, right? So that's how I feel it. That's how I see it. It's like this dense energy, and it can form you experience something, and it can form in any layers. So it can form in your emotional layer and in your soul layer, and it doesn't have to hit any other layer but those. Or it could hit all the layers, right? It could be in every single one, depending on how traumatic, how long, how you felt it, right? There's so many different factors that go into that, I would assume anyway, that go into where these energetic patterns, these bound tension patterns, are stored within the body. but they are stored within this place. Now, what happens with them and how do we function? Well, we function like we don't even know that they're there. Like it could have been something that you watched on TV a long time ago that still hits you in like this weird way. I will never forget. There was like two things, like when I think of as a kid, right? That I saw one thing on TV on like a Lifetime movie, and I was probably a little bit older, but like I probably shouldn't have been watching this movie, honestly. Um, and I remember there was like a Lifetime movie about like a husband that killed his wife and he like cleaned it up really good. And like it was this whole story that I was watching. And then he cleaned it up really good. And then they found like all the blood splatters with like a black light. And I will never forget like that sat with me. Like I can still remember the movie. I can still remember the actress in it. Like for the most part, like I can remember what she looked like. I think she was in another show that I watched. I'm trying to think of who it was. I feel like it was like Joe in one of the shows I watched and I can't remember which one, but I like remember like being really upset and like hysterically crying because it felt real. And on some level, if I really think about it right now, I wonder if it felt real because maybe in another lifetime I had experienced that and it felt very real and I just got chills. So I'm going to take that as as a possibility. But it hit me in like this really, really weird way. And to the point where I can still recall most of the details now. Right. So like that means that somewhere in my energetic field, most likely that, and I could still feel it. Like I can still feel like being like distraught. I was distraught over this and I can still feel the energy of that emotion in my body. So, obviously this is coming up for me probably to heal right now. Because I haven't thought about this in a long time, but this is what's popping up for me right in this moment as I'm talking about it. But I remember that, and I remember that it was traumatizing to see. And on some level, that is obviously held within my energetic field. It obviously is held in my emotional field, and it's maybe, may even be held in my physical body. Who knows? Because I'm feeling it really deeply in my heart space. But it's there. It's there. And what happens is these different memories or these different things that we experience as we go through them, they are this deep energetic knot that as you're going through life, you may not, again, be thinking about anything. And then your energy is just moving as it does up and down your body. And as it's trying to move, it hits that knot. And what happens is you get a memory, right? You get like you're driving along the highway and you're just like, remember this thing from like when you were a kid or when you were a teenager or whatever it is. And it hits you and it's reminding you and you're like, where in the hell did that come from? Well, it came from you, and it's really coming from your subconscious mind and your energy field. And it doesn't want to hold on to that energy anymore. So it's trying to present itself and say, like, we don't need this. Like, this is just like an anchor. And I want you to think of all of these things as anchors, right? Like these are anchors to your own ascension, to your energy's wholeness, to you feeling like your best version of you, the most magnetic version of you. Now, like I gave you a small example. I can't in this moment think about a way that could be holding me back in some way from anything, but maybe it is. And subconsciously, I'm in fear over something or whatever it is. I can't see it right now, but I have had many things that have come to light once I've witnessed them and seen them, where I have seen how they have shaped my life and how I show up in the world. And as I'm saying this right now, I want you to really sit back and think about the little things, like the little things that maybe hold you back. And where did they come from? Like, you know where they came from. If I say, how old are you right now? You're going to be like 12, right? Like your body knows. And that is pretty miraculous, I think, that how intelligent, when we can witness how intelligent our bodies are that it can actually communicate and tell us how old we were when something was stored in it, right? So think about that. Like, these things hold you back energetically. They shape how you show up in the world, and you're just living your life. And if you're not privy to this information, if you're just living life and just going through the motions, you're always going to operate from that place. And we don't want to operate from a place of hurt. We don't want to operate from a place of fear, of doubt, of trauma, of limiting belief. That will always limit, that will always cap or have a ceiling on what is possible for you. At the end of the day, our reality is that there is no ceiling. There is none of it, none of it. The possibilities are limitless, limitless possibilities for your life. And we allow ourselves to really be held down by these energies. This is why I find healing to be so powerful. Like, going on your healing journey, and not just one modality, all of the modalities that fit within your resonance, right? Like, that resonate with you, that feel really good to you. These are the ways that you want to lean in and experience and let go of those energies, whether you understand them or not, whether you can feel it or not, just beginning to unwind these patterns, unwind these bound tension patterns in your body so that you can soar, right? Like, I always think of, whenever I say these words, I think of like a bird trying to fly, but it's got a weight on its foot. And imagine how that bird would fly. Like, maybe it would take off the ground, but it would be like flapping its wings really, really hard. And like, everything would feel like the hardest thing possible to get to the next branch and to get to the next branch and to get to the next branch. Like, it would feel like the workout of your life. And maybe all that the bird has to do is just like allow the weight to be let go of. Like, maybe the bird is actually holding on to it and it doesn't even know it. Or maybe it's like a simple way to let it go so that it can soar, but it's not even looking at the weight. It just thinks it's a part of it. And this is what we do. We truly think, and I've seen it so many times and I've heard it so many times, and it hurts me to hear these words, that we think that our experiences are, and like everything about who we are is just, and I'm saying this in air quotes, who we are. And it's not, right? Like, it's not. You get to say who you are. It doesn't, your experiences don't get to be the thing that defines you. I don't think that that's fair to you, to be quite honest, because some people might have had great experiences in life and some people really might not have had great experiences over and over and over again. And honestly, I don't think it's fair to say that one person gets to, just because they were handed handed this life, that this is how they have to be in this lifetime. I don't think it's fair. I think that these people are just not looking at the control that they actually do have. We feel powerless, especially when things are going like we feel like we're getting beat up by life. And the fact is that you always have a choice. You have a choice whether to hold on to these things. You have a choice of whether to let them go. People have had really, really hard childhoods, really, really hard childhoods. And then they come out of it and they are the most successful and grounded and healed people. And then there are people that have had a really tough childhood and they don't come out that way. What makes the difference there? I truly think that the difference is the environment that they put themselves in, the mindset, and what are you surrendering to? Like, are you surrendering to life is hard? Or are you surrendering to, I can co-create this world. I can co-create my world, and I choose not to let those experiences dictate who I am. And I think that's really powerful when you can stand back and say, I will not let these experiences shape my life. I will not let these experiences tell me what is possible for me. Throughout my own healing journey, I didn't realize, like, I would look back on my childhood. Like, I look back on my childhood. I had a wonderful childhood. So great. I loved I had loving parents, and I had great friends, and I always had fun. Did well in school. We went on little vacations and we did things, and all of those things, like all of those memories, shape who I am. And if I were to look back, like when I used to, just started out on my healing journey, I was like, I don't really know. I don't really have that much to heal from. I don't really have, like, I had a great childhood. I had all these things. But the reality is that we all have a story. Every single one of us, every single one has a story, and it is a different story for everyone. And we don't even realize how our stories are shaped. We don't. We don't realize that our parents' limiting beliefs become our limiting beliefs. We don't realize that, one thing that was said by a parent or by someone on the playground or by a sibling, how that affects you. You just think, oh, well, a kid, well, what are you going to do? Yeah, okay, I was bullied, or I was, this or that. Kids said mean things. Just kids say mean things. It happens to everybody. That's life. I don't subscribe to that. Oh no, I don't subscribe to that. And I've seen, even within my own journey, these things that came up. Like, I remember in second grade, somebody, you know what? The one I'm being drawn to right now is like fifth grade. So fifth grade, we had a talent show, okay, that we were doing. And me and all of my friends, there was a lot of the kids like in the class, and we were doing this like in our minds, and it was really deeply ingrained in my mind that like we were doing like backflips and like this whole like big show, like this Cirque du Soleil style in fifth grade. All right. And we were doing all these different stunts and tricks, and we were going to have the best like performance ever. Like, it was going to blow everybody out of the water. And I remember coming back in from like a weekend break, and coming back in on Monday, and like one of the kids came up to me and was like, "You're crazy. Like, this is way too much. I tried one of these things with my cousins this weekend, and there's no way that we can do these things." And then everybody like believed him, and we didn't do any of those things. And honestly, I can't even remember what we did after that. I have no idea what the solution was, but I remember those words. Like, I remember that, and how that shaped me was later on in life. And I still have to remind myself of this, is that I had this belief that my dreams are too big for others to understand. And that was a really, really profound thing to recognize, to understand, because I was playing small, and I would not allow other people to hear the dreams that I had. And so what was I doing? Right? Like, let's look at this. Let's break this down. What was I doing? Well, first of all, I was capping what was possible for me. Right? So if I don't share my dreams, that means I don't also believe in them. I, on some level, believe that my dream is too big, and not even like a who am I to do this, but it's actually not possible to attain. Right? So that's part of it. And that was a big one, because in order for me to even be sitting here with you right now and having this conversation with you, it took me overcoming and no longer showing up as that version of me. It took me so long to unwind that, to like really understand how deep that went. And I'm still uncovering pieces of that within my energetic field. Like I'm still clearing that. The bigger that spirit and soul gets, and the more I am out there in the world, the more I have to, it will show up again. And I have to remind myself of it, is that my dreams are big, and that's okay. My dreams are big and people don't have to understand them, right? But I will always speak them out loud. Like it's a myth. This is a side note. It's a myth that when you make a wish that you're not supposed to tell anybody. You're like, if you're blowing out a candle, you're not supposed to tell people your wishes or else they won't come true. I really think that's like a way that wherever that came from, that it's like a way to like keep you down, because the magic is in the speaking it out loud. The magic is in the admitting to it and then taking the steps in order to start to call those things in, to bring those things in. So now I always say my wishes out loud. At Lionsgate, we always whisper it or sit, because there's a lot of people there, so we whisper it. Otherwise, it's going to be everybody screaming. But I always make sure to say my wishes out loud, and I feel like that's like a method of controlling your magic. Side note. But I will always say those things out loud. I will no longer stifle my dreams. I will no longer allow for someone else's ceiling to be my ceiling. And maybe in 5th grade, we were not capable. Maybe we were. And I guess I'll never find out if that 5th grade version of me was capable of it. I bet you that she was. And I bet you she could have got everybody else to do it. But the other kid had a strong argument, and on some level, I believed it, obviously. On some level, I believed it. I don't think that I could believe it anymore. Like, there's nothing that can stand in my way, but I had to clear that samskara, which is a term that you can find in Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. That's what these bound tension patterns are. They're called samskaras. So I can say that I've definitely cleared the samskara, that wherever it was held in my body, that it's no longer there. However, it must be in maybe a layer if I still have to continue to talk myself through it, but I don't feel its hold on me anymore like I used to. So sitting back right now and recognizing maybe where in your own life are you, or is like a thought or just a way of operating holding you back? Like, can you see it? Can you take the step back and start to see it? So all of these things are being held within the energetic field. All of these things are being held within your energetic field, your physical body. That's why you might have like knee pain, and you're like, I don't understand why, but you had a breakup years ago and you haven't been able to move forward since. And now it's manifesting as knee pain in your body, right? So like that's a way that it would show up physically within your physical body. So there's so much magic here and so many things to unpack. And what was really, really beautiful was in my Shadow and Soul group coaching. At the first month, we're talking about just being aware and recognizing the stories that we tell ourselves in our lives. Like, how are you triggered? What are you thinking about? And then taking the step back and just witnessing the thoughts as they come up, witnessing how you feel, having the tools, like asking yourself, how old am I right now? So you can start to get to the bottom of where this bound tension pattern is. So right before I jumped on the podcast, I checked our Instagram group, and it was blowing up with everybody telling their stories of just witnessing. Like, we're not even working through anything yet. We're not even letting the energy patterns go. We're actually just witnessing the thought patterns coming up and the feelings coming up, triggers, and then writing them down. And from that already, just from that, People are having breakthroughs with how things have been holding them back. They're figuring out what their why is. Like, why are they doing this? Why do they want to change their lives, right? This is profound work just coming from being aware of how you operate in the world. This is how you begin to unwind the subconscious mind. This is the way that you start to clear out the subconscious mind, so that, and clearing it out of the low vibration stuff so you can bring in the positives, the high vibration stuff. We are operating our day from 95% of our day, we are operating it from subconscious mind, subconscious programming. You don't even know. You don't even know how you're operating. So it takes intention for you to step back and say, wow, like I did not realize that I was operating like this. I did not realize that I thought I was abundant. I thought I was manifesting. I didn't even brush the surface. I didn't even get to anywhere near my ability to manifest because of this one thing, or because of this thing, right? Or these two things, whatever it is. So it's amazing what's coming up just by being aware. So that's going to be the homework that I have for you. Start becoming aware of the things that are coming up, the bound tension patterns coming up for you. What's giving you contraction? What is giving you what is like triggering you, right? And just witness it. You can ask if you want to, how old are you? How old am I right now? Oh, I'm 13. What happened at 13? Got into a fight with my best friends, and fill in the blank, right? So this is how we begin to notice them and witness them. And the important part, once you do all of this and you really start working through it, is to let the energy go from the body. So this is where, I feel like, and I love not saying anything about like any therapist or anything like that, but I think that this is where the magic of therapy begins to stop, unless you have like a spiritual therapist that's doing healing modalities, right? Because the talk part of it stops. And then what, right? So you can't just understand it. You have to let it go from the body. And I am a believer, and take what resonates, leave what doesn't, but I am a believer in energy healings in order to do this. So my favorite one of all for this is spinal energetics. I love IET, integrated energy therapy. I am a practitioner as well. I love Reiki, of course. Okay, Reiki master teacher here. I love working with crystals to help to unwind this, even having like a crystal healing. I'm a crystal energy therapist as well. So obviously I'm doing the things that feel right to me. There are so many healing modalities. There are so many different ways that you can take this journey, and you have to do what resonates with you. As a side note, I am going to say that if part of this for you is any type of, like psilocybin or any type of like herbal medicine in that way, like medicine journeys, like ayahuasca or anything like that, if that is on your journey, I just want to say one thing and just be very, very cautious of who you enter into these spaces with, okay? Because while it sounds amazing to like go down to Costa Rica and do an ayahuasca journey like in the woods, that's like not appealing to me at all. But like for some, I get it. It is. Also, just being in the woods is not appealing to me, but that's not appealing to me. And if it is appealing to you, like I want you to really think about what happens when you leave that space. I heard from someone that really that holds space for people, like ayahuasca journeys that I met, and things like that. And he was explaining how, actually no. And then there was this other woman that was telling me about it. We were kind of having this conversation, and she was saying that, there was like her shaman only stays in like one place and is a believer. And again, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, that where you do your healing like in something like that, like a medicine journey, should really be like close to home, because when you get home from like an outside source, like you're held in this container and then that container is over. And when you are going to these places and it's held in that container, that the energy of it kind of stays, and like the integration period is very hard. Again, I don't really know anything about this, but I'm passing this along because I have also seen a lot of people come back from ayahuasca journeys, in particular, and combo journeys, another one. I've seen them come back with darkness attached, and they feel it. They know that it's there. And it could just be that the space wasn't held well, that, you never know with these sacred grounds, like what type of sacred ground it is. And if people aren't aware and they're just like, oh, let's go here and do this, like, and they don't know the grounds or introduce themselves, it could be that these sacred lands are not happy, right? I've just seen it too many times to not pass this along to you. Be cautious with those things. I don't know enough about them, but you can find somebody that does. If this is your thing, I would strongly suggest looking up, I think it's called Ceremonia. They are in Denver, maybe. And it's run by Austin and Choo Choo Mao, Mao. They are really great. And I know them from a program that I was in, and they really hold space in a very authentic and beautiful way. And maybe if you have questions, I would point them that way. Again, that's not really my thing, but I know it's a lot of people's things, and I don't want to pretend like it doesn't exist, because it does. And I want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that you're not coming to me like months later saying you have some kind of energy attachment to you. I don't want that happening. So yeah, that was a side note, but I feel like it was like important to kind of say that. But any healing modality, you really, this is where the energy then begins to leave the body, and you can actually allow it to go. And this is it's facilitated. Even if you're Reiki certified and you do it to yourself, like do it, right? Or like if you're IET certified, you want to do it to yourself, do it. But that energy has to go. And I feel like there is something about it being removed from your body. And even with like spinal energetics is always going to be my favorite with this, because I've seen the immediate results, right? Like I have seen the absolute immediate results of what happens when you release the body and release the energy from the body in this really powerful way. Spinal 1 releases the traumas and the fears and the limiting beliefs and the doubts and all the things. And while spinal 2 does that as well, so spinal 2 is really focused on the subconscious rewiring and reprogramming that your body does innately, right? Like it's not being led by anything. It's your body's innate understanding of how to do this, but by releasing the energy that was attached to it. So it's amazing. If this is something that you are interested in, because I like absolutely obsessed with spinal 2 and spinal 1. But spinal energetic, you have to get like multiple sessions of spinal energetics 1 in order to get to even like have your body be ready for spinal 2. There's no set number. It's just your body says when you're ready or when you're not ready. And that's what I'm trained to know. But understand that if this is something that you're interested in, if this is something that you are, want to go down this road to start to uncover these things and let them go from your body, like just DM Spirit and Soul Studio and we will set something up for you. Okay. So this is how these energy patterns are stored within the body. And we want to the first step is really recognizing that they're even there. It's witnessing them every single time they're trying to scream for your attention, that you are getting it, like you understand it. And it's being intentional with it. That's you stopping what you're doing and saying, okay, what's going on here? Why do I feel like this? Like I'm witnessing it. Why do I feel like this? And then the next step is going to be once you understand it and start to work through it. And by the way, don't attach to it. So things may come up for you and you can't continue to attach to it. It's about letting it go. It's asking you to let it go. You've already attached to it. That's why it's coming up. And now you're going to attach to it again with an older, mindset. Let's say it happened when you were a kid and now you're attaching to it with this mind. No, it's not coming up for you to reattach to. It's coming up for you to let go and not to have these like feelings around it, continue the feelings and continue the spiral and go into the mind. Now you have ruminating thoughts over it. No, it is meant to say, okay, I see that. Okay, well, I see how and reconcile it, right? Like I see how that was never my fault, or that wasn't meant that way, or kids are mean. And that doesn't mean that it was actually meant towards me. Like who knows what that kid was going through, right? And you could start to coach yourself into the actual truth about it because you've been not telling yourself a truth for the longest time without realizing it. So we don't attach to it. We witness it. We don't attach to it. And then the next level is going to be letting it go energetically from the body. I would highly suggest this. So whether it's a Reiki session, IET, spinal energetics, whatever it might be for you, get it out. Get it out and get it soothed. And then what happens on the other side of this, like now you let go of the samskara, right? You're inviting in, you now have space in your body for the manifesting. You have space in your body to hold a higher level frequency of whatever it is that was blocking you from getting what you want. Right? So like for me, going back to my 5th grade self, well, a block for me at the time was like I was trying to get a business off the ground and I wasn't showing up authentically me. I wasn't showing up with an actual belief system that I could have it because, I was told that my dreams were too big and that dream felt really big. So I was capping myself for a while. And then all of a sudden I saw it. And then I didn't have to adhere to it anymore. I didn't have to continue to attach to it and to make that my truth. That is not my truth. So if that ever comes up, I'm usually exhausted, tired, or it's coming up in a different layer for me in order to let it go. And it's up to me then to not fall into an old pattern, right? So, and now I don't have that problem. Like we're thriving at Spirit and Soul. I'm thriving. Like my life I've never felt so good in my entire life, ever. At 42 years old, I have never felt as good as I do in this moment. And that's because I have so much like physical and emotional and mental and spiritual and soulful and ancestral like healing that I've done. And I have vitality. I don't have those energetic things holding me down. And let me tell you something, it feels good. And for someone that didn't think that they had anything to heal, I can't believe how much was there. I cannot believe it. So we all have something and we all have a story, and all that we're looking to do here is just to let them go. Just to let it go and not let it define you anymore. So I hope that you can go down this journey. I hope that we can be a part of it. We have incredible healers at Spirit and Soul, and I say healer loosely, right? It's someone that's holding space for your healing. But we have incredible people here, and I hope that we can be on that journey and help to support you on that. So if you need help with that, just reach out at Spirit and Soul Studio on Instagram, and we're more than happy to help you. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Spirit and Soul podcast, and I will see you next week.